I just had to believe in the possible. Possibility lives outside of our comfort zone. And so when we can push the edges of our comfort zone, we can then create the impossible, what we think might be impossible.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Tea. I'm your host, Tiny Charlie Mix. I'm excited today because we're going to be talking about possibilities with Mr. Andy Hite. So before we go into any farther, I want to welcome Mr. Andy to the show. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you on. You know, I love our one-on-one conversation, and I was just fascinated because I sort of like stepped my foot into your coaching program, and I was like, ooh, the possibilities are endless. So again, thank you for sharing or accepting my invitation to come on, and we're going to have a great conversation. I think this is going to be really good. So those transitioners, you need to pay attention to Mr. Andy Hite, because we're going to talk about possibility versus predictability. So
yeah.
Mr. Andy, please tell a little bit about who you are. And, you know, I'll give you a quick, easy. How have you been handling this reopening after the whole pandemic? So the floor is yours there, sir.
So I'll start with who I am. Yeah. Andy Hite. I live in the northern suburbs of Chicago. And we have a small boutique coaching firm that works with executives, leaders, and my passion is entrepreneurs and business owners. And then the second half of your question was what?
What have you learned since the reopening after the pandemic?
What have I learned? I've learned that people don't like to be trapped. And so when things reopen, like it is just a free-for-all party. Travel, getting out for dinners and with friends, and which is really beautiful and a ton of fun.
Right. Yeah.
I've certainly enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to traveling this summer as we go further. So, but yeah, I love looking back and seeing what we could do differently as we go forward. And
what
I think
would you do
sort of
differently?
like, what would I do differently? Well, I'm embracing the online community.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I health is important to me, and I realized how important it really was versus the money aspect of it sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. The pandemic really, I think, opened up a lot of our eyes to what is important. And sort of for those that were a bit self-aware, realized maybe we fell asleep at the wheel a little bit, right? We were in jobs that we didn't really love or were filling. We weren't really taking care of ourselves. We weren't telling our loved ones that I love you. And the coronavirus and the pandemic itself really taught us that tomorrow is not guaranteed. And so we really must live today as if it's our last, because it could be, right? And there's so much to get from today. Yeah. So much beauty, so much enjoyment.
Yeah. It's like I said, I go for my walks, and you know, I'll leave out. I might be in a funky mood because something didn't go right. But by the time I get back after an hour, I'm like, oh, that was small potatoes. That wasn't important.
Small potatoes, right? Sometimes we just get fixated on these little things that seem to be big, but on the grand scheme of things, small potatoes.
Small potatoes, yes. And I wanted to really like talk about, I was reading, like I said, your bio, and what really stuck out for me, the first thing was you said on here, your family is everything. And a significant driver was for you to leave your job or your career was to show your daughter about chasing dreams. And I can relate with that, because doing why I sort of do what I do is to show my granddaughter that you don't have to live a job. So how important is that when you're thinking about your possibilities?
For me, it was literally the jumping off point, and it was everything, right? I was confronted with this possibility of creating this firm while I had a career that I really enjoyed and thought that I would probably retire. But the work of coaching and helping business owners create businesses and lives that light them up was pulling at me really hard. And I sat here, I think my daughters were 11 or 12 at the time. And I thought, I'm constantly telling them to pursue what they want, to chase their dreams. And who would I be over here if I didn't do it myself? Right. And I really saw it as an opportunity, not only to go create something that I was very passionate about, but to show them and to model for them what that looks like. The good, the bad, the ugly, the difficult, the elation that comes with it. Oftentimes they'll come in the office and ask how it's going. And I try and be really transparent. I'm down today because I lost a client, or I'm celebrating because I got a client, or, I've hit all my goals, or whatever that is. I want them to see what it really is like to chase something that is on fire in your soul.
Right. Yeah. It's like exploring the possibilities, because I can like said why it picked up with me is like said I did my government job. I felt like I gave stability for my kids, and it shows them that you can do things when you work hard. But now what times are changing, you can't really rely on the old business model that we have. And I think that, like I said, that was what resonated with me, because I want to show my granddaughter that there's other possibilities out there. And this really ties into our conversation about the possibilities. And another thing that really I was reading too, was when you talked about therapy versus coaching. And I know, we're in the age that coaching is really big, but can you explain the difference between the therapy and coaching, and how can we usually marry those up together?
Totally. Yeah. Actually, I have a couple of clients who are working with both myself and a therapist, and we'll communicate through the client to the therapist and back and forth. And it's really powerful work. But the distinction really is therapy's primary role is to heal past wounds, to heal mental illness, so that a person can reasonably live a life that they enjoy today. A lot of work looking to the past and healing the past and that kind of thing. Coaching really is forward looking, goal oriented. And what we do is we help clients set up goals, whether it's a business owner wanting to double revenue or whatever that is. And then we help them move towards that. Now, when that happens, our little gremlins are going to come and try and stop us, right? And we help clients move through those blind spots, those gremlins, the thoughts and fears and beliefs that tend to pop up. So that's basically the difference. Did I lay that out in an understandable way?
Yeah, it is. And like I said, I sort of wanted to touch on that a little bit, because I think it's pivotal when we talk about transitioning our stories, and like you said, you left your career to venture into somewhat the unknown. Yeah. So how it develops mindset to look at the possibilities. And so as we go into that, what are some of the takeaways that you put in place before you took that leap, or like you said, you had that calling and it knew. So, to take that leap, what did you have to prepare for to take that leap?
Well, you sort of laid the groundwork beautifully at the top of our conversation, sort of possibility versus predictability. I could have stayed in that older career and had a fine life and career, right? That would have been predictable. I could have easily done that. But the world of possibility pointed me towards creating something new for myself, which took my level of fulfillment and enjoyment and just the joie de vivre of life to a whole new level, which I think is kind of what we're here to do, right? To evolve, to grow, to make an impact. And so a big premise in my life and in my practice is helping my clients envision what's really possible for them outside of what's predictable. If we just get up and go to work every day, that is what's predictable, versus creating a vision of possibility for one's life and then moving in that direction to create it. So
Right.
for me, I just had to believe in the possible and be courageous enough, vulnerable enough to kind of walk up to that edge and kind of jump and trust, right? That's where possibility lives. Possibility lives outside of our comfort zone. And so when we can push the edges of our comfort zone, we can then create the impossible, what we think might be impossible.
Right, right. So I want to take a moment here because it's amazing. Just 10 minutes went by that quick. So if you're picking up what Mr. Ann has dropped, the juicy nuggets he's already dropped, please give us a like, maybe leave us down a comment below, because we're going to pivot a little bit, because I want to talk about how do we get from, that side and taking that leap, So Mr. Andy, before we really, run out of time, was there like something that kept you up at night? It's like, this is enough. Do you have like I've had enough moment?
Yeah, so I was working with a coach at the time, and I felt this sort of calling, which I think most of us have, some sort of needling. If I did that, I would love to have that, or this would be incredible. And my coach kept challenging me, like, well, why not? And then I really had to sit with the question, why not? Right? Awareness creates choice in our lives, and choice is where we grow. And so I had to kind of sit with, well, am I scared to do it? Am I courageous enough to do it? And so it helped me create the choice that, yeah, I'm going to pick up the phone, tender my resignation, and hang my shingle and go for it. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know what the future will hold. All I can control is myself and today. And I'm going to sit down at this desk and do my best today to create this dream.
Right. I love it. And what I'm picking up, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is you got curious. You started asking questions. So how important are paying attention to the questions, or maybe the thoughts that you have for taking that leap?
It's everything, right? I really do believe and know that the wisdom that we need is inside. Oftentimes we just live in the predictable and kind of skate along without getting curious. I think, what is it, Socrates or Plato that said the unexamined life is not worth living, or some version of that. I believe that's true. The spice of life really comes when we look within and get curious about who we are and what we're up to. And so because my coach really helped me like focus in and get the awareness, it all became possible. I just had to then make the choice.
Right. So I got a couple more questions before we wrap up the session, but I'm having like another question that's coming up to me is, are you okay with acceptance? Like, how does the acceptance of, maybe it doesn't work out the way you want, how are you comfortable with acceptance, and how do you prepare people to be okay with acceptance?
It's sort of like, I believe most people, if they really give it everything they have, can create what they want. Does that mean that we won't stumble and fall? Of course we're going to stumble and fall. A lot of people stumble and fall once or twice and then deem that failure. It didn't work for me. They stick with it for 3 months, 6 months. Right? We're giving up. We're being sort of fatalistic about it. Versus I won't accept failure, because failure, who defines failure? Give it 3-5 years, you're going to make it. It doesn't mean that you won't stumble, make mistakes, have setbacks. But most people quit way too soon and accept failure.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, it's fascinating. Your philosophy or your shift in mindset can really be a pivotal thing. And I want to touch more What are belly laughs?
Belly laugh?
Share, yeah, like
You read that on my website?
I have to be do my due diligence.
Yeah.
So what are belly laughs, and how important is it to have like a childlike quality in looking at your role or your pivotal moment to transition?
Belly laughs for me are when I can't breathe, and your abdomen is so constricted that you can't breathe. It's that funny. That's my favorite. I think everybody has different values in life. I do think play and fun is important to everybody. But for me specifically, I know if I am not having some amount of fun and laughter and play, that things aren't aligned well for me. That I've veered in one direction or another outside of my path. So those values that you read, I use them as touchstones to see, if something feels off or something's not clicking, am I living into each of these things? But yes, laughter, fun, play is so important to me.
Like I said, I believe it because it's sort of like an indicator that you're in the right direction.
That's right.
So if you're laughing more, it's like, oh, I'm having fun. You don't even know
right.
you're there. So that's part of the possibilities. It's
Yeah.
like paying attention, like you said, to your awareness.
I've literally can track when laughter is not available for a month, 2, or something's off, my business goes down. I can see it. Like it's data.
Like business indicators. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for answering those key questions that I wanted to ask. But I want to now go more to like what I predictably ask for those who watch. What's the one thing you want people to take away from this interview if there's nothing else that they hear?
To look towards the world of possibility. What might be possible for you versus what is predictable that you without thinking about it, you're going to create on a daily basis. What might be just a step above that you can aim towards and move towards and create for yourself, because there is a whole new world out there that is waiting for you to come claim it. Right.
Yeah. That's a good one. Now, if you haven't picked it up, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to just say that's a good one. So before we close out, Mr. Andy, where can people find more information about you, your services, and what you do?
Oh, I appreciate that. My website, andyhitecoaching.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. Just search, I think it's Andy S. Hite. But I'm in those 2 places, and reach out. Love to have a conversation.
Okay, thank you. And I want to also, my unofficial question, would you be willing to come back and have a deeper conversation?
Deeper. That's my jam. Let's go deeper.
I love it. I love it. And I also want to say thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom with us. It's been a pleasure having this conversation.
Really am grateful for the opportunity and the conversation. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you. And I want to remind everybody who tuned in that, yes, feedback is always welcome. Remember, links that Andy mentioned will be posted down in the description box. So please make sure you check it out there down below. If you've enjoyed the show today, if you picked up some insight that Andy dropped, because he dropped a lot of nuggets, please make sure you hit that like button over there. And again, if you want to continue getting continued insight like Mr. Andy shared today, and maybe some other insight that we have, please make sure you hit that subscribe button over there. And remember, take things in stride, go with the flow, and create your own path. And we will see you back here on another episode of Coffee with Tea. All right. Bye-bye.